Hey guys, it's Dr. Jansen. Today we're going to learn about evaluating expressions, which is actually a pretty simple math concept to learn. So let's get started. All right, so the first step in evaluating expressions is understanding that basically all we're doing is substituting. So when we evaluate expressions, we are going to substitute the value in for the given variable. For the given variable. And here's what that really means. The value is really just the number, okay? And the given variable is really just the letter, okay? Variable, it's really just the letter. Ooh, just threw my stylus across there. Value is really just the number, and the variable is really just the letter. Okay, that's really all you need to know. And the most important part of this is that whenever we do this substituting, we always have to put whatever we substitute in parentheses. I always tell my students that we're doing this to keep it safe. And we really are doing it to keep it safe because we're keeping our number safe inside this parentheses. And a lot of times it's going to tell us that we need to multiply it by something or we need to do something with it. And if it's not in parentheses, we are not going to remember to do that. So we have got to put it in parentheses, or there's a negative with it or something like that. It's so important that anytime we substitute a number in for a variable, we always put it in parentheses. And as you move forward in math, you're going to see it's not going to be just a number. Right now we're starting with a number, but it's going to be, at some point, it's going to be an entire equation, things like that. So it's really important that we get in that habit now. The second step is something you might be a little bit familiar with. It's called solving. That's it. You're just going to solve. And that's the entire thing. That's the entire lesson. That's evaluating expressions. Okay? So let's try one out. Let's grab a different color here. Okay. Number 1. Okay. Number 1 just says 3c plus negative 2 times d. And what these are going to look like on the side is they're going to look something like this. It'll say if when c is equal to negative 5 and d is equal to negative 1. And it looks all fancy when it says that, like if when c is equal to negative 5 and d is equal to negative 1. But it's really not. It is not fancy at all. It's nothing like that. Again, all we're doing is we're just substituting. So all this is saying is, okay, substitute negative 5 in for c. Again, when you tell me that c and negative 5 are equal to each other, they are equal to each other. So I can easily swap one in for the other. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to put negative 5 in for c. That's it. I'm just going to swap one in for the other. So if I'm putting negative 5 in, c is going to go away. And again, if I'm going to put negative 5 right in for where c is, I have to put it in parentheses. So c is going to go away, negative 5 is going to go in its place, and it goes in always in parentheses. That's right, you got it. I'm going to rewrite the rest of my problem right now exactly as it is because I always do that because I do not want to get confused. You can never be too careful. So I did that one. Now I'm going to substitute negative 1 where d is. Why? Because d and negative 1 are equal. And I'm trying to simplify this as much as possible. And right now, I still have something that says d. Well, that doesn't help me get the simplest number that I can. So I'm going to swap out this d for negative 1. But in order to do that, copy down the rest of my problem. Swap out this d for -1, but when I do that, again, I have to put that -1 in parentheses. Now I'm going to solve, okay? Good thing we just learned all about the order of operations because I have a lot of different operations going on here. First, do I have anything in parentheses? I do. I have these in parentheses, but like we talked about before, there's nothing going on inside of the parentheses. Yeah, I have some negative signs, but there's no operations to be done. So parentheses, check. Parentheses part is over. There's nothing to do. Any exponents? Nope. Check. Any multiplication or division? Yes. I see some multiplication here and here. How do I know which one to do first? Again, we're always checking left to right. So that means I'm going to do this one first, this one second. Okay. So I'm going to do 3 times -5, which is -15. Copy down the rest of my problem. The only multiplication left I have is right here. Copy down the rest of my problem. Keep everything nice and neat. -2 times -1 is +2 because a negative times a negative is a positive, or I could just punch that in my calculator to be really thorough. Again, if I'm punching my calculator, I want to include those parentheses because it's a really good habit that Dr. James is teaching us. Next, do I have any other multiplication or division right here? I do not. So third step in the order of operations has been completed. That's done. Lastly, do I have any addition or subtraction? I do right there. -15 plus 2 gives me -13. And that is my answer. Great job. All right, guys, I've got one more example here for you. Let's look at number 2. 6a to the third power b divided by 3a. If a equals +2 and b equals -4. So here again, we're just doing the same thing. First, I'm just going to substitute +2 in for a. So I've got 6, and when I do that, again, 2 always goes in parentheses. Here that ended up being really important because on the top part of my fraction, 2 is getting raised to the third power. If that 2 would have been negative, it would have been really important that 2 was in parentheses, but here even just facts getting raised to the third power, it's important that we see that attachment there. And it's really important to note that 2 was substituted in 2 different places on the top and the bottom of our fraction. So make sure we're being really careful and observant when we're looking at our problems here. So let's keep going. Now let's go ahead and substitute our -4 in for b. So we're going to do that right there and copy down the rest of our problem. So I've got 6 times 2 to the third power. Again, that -4 goes in parentheses for the b. Like I just said, super important that that stayed in or came in parentheses because we have that negative in there. Again, we do that for every number no matter what. Anytime we substitute, always goes in parentheses. And now, and I'm actually going to draw, you'll see me do this a little bit sometimes when I run out of room. I'll just draw an arrow over here so that you can see where I'm continuing the problem. So now we're going to continue solving this using the order of operations. We do not have any parentheses. Again, we have things inside but no operations. Next, we do have exponents. We have 2 to the third power, which is 8. So I'm going to copy down the rest of my problem. I'm going to keep that answer 8 in parentheses because it's going to remind me that I'm going to still need to multiply that 8 by 6. And now I don't have any more exponents, so that part is taken care of. But as you can see, I have lots of multiplication and division that needs to happen here. In a problem like this, where you see there are things that need to be done on the top of this division problem and the bottom, we need to do all the things on the top and the bottom before we can divide out our final answer. So that is something important to note. So we need to do all this multiplication on the top and the bottom first. So again, always moving left to right, we're going to do this 6 times 8 first, which gives us 48. Still times that -4. And we can do the 3 times 2, which gives us 6 on the bottom. I can continue carrying this over here. 48 times negative 4. I'm going to punch that in my calculator. 48 times negative 4 gave us negative 192. Negative 192 over 6. And then that simplified to give us our answer of negative 32. And there you go. There's the answer to number 2. Great job.